Welcome to the Millennial Diner podcast. It's Jeff. I'm here at the diner. Phil's here as well, and this is really exciting. Today we got Hose here. Hose, say hi to the people out there.
Hello, everyone.
Hose, I'm so excited for you to come to the diner. I know you've been telling me a lot about this diner. The food's amazing. I'm personally going to get myself a pizza bagel today. It's an old Long Island classic. We're going to put some Daya cheese on there, marinara, and I'm going to get a black coffee with that. No oat milk today, Phil. No oat milk today.
No oat milk today. Oh, that's very exciting.
Yeah.
Is there vegan bread? Does the bagel have to be vegan too?
No, most bread is vegan unless they use butter in it or something to make it.
Okay.
So a certain brioches maybe I guess would not be.
That would be off limits. Okay.
Hose, what? I know you've been looking at the menu for a few hours now. So what are you gonna get? What are you gonna get?
Yeah, man. Country fried steak and with scrambled eggs, please. Hash browns. Not the home fries, the actual hash browns.
Yeah.
Replace the toast with a biscuit and just get some extra sausage gravy on there, please. Coffee. Coffee with cream.
Coffee and cream?
Yeah.
All right. Good hearty diner meal, Hose. I appreciate that. Bill,
Yeah, you ordered the left-hand side of the menu. Well, since Maurice is in the kitchen today,
feeling like you're gonna go big?
I'm feeling like I'm gonna go big. I'm gonna get some rye toast with butter and a black coffee. That sounds good.
Okay. Well, maybe next time you'll get the other side of the menu.
I live where I'm comfortable.
Hose, that's an impressive order. It sounds like someone from the Midwest might order something like that. Would you know anything about the Midwest?
Oh yeah, I grew up in the Midwest.
Look at that.
Yeah. Love diners, love truck stop diners, and I grew up in Wisconsin. Born in Brooklyn, but grew up in Wisconsin.
Very cool. Truck stop diner. Can I just ask about that? What makes a truck stop diner different than I don't know, the average diner? What's the?
Usually there are a lot of truckers.
Right. That
Usually
makes
a lot
sense.
greasier, inexpensive. It's not like your fancy diners in the big cities, and enormous amounts of food. It's craziness. Right. And bottomless coffee all day.
Been to Wisconsin one time, and I remember driving at night, and I was like, "Oh, somebody's coming!" So I had the high beams on. There's nothing, no street lights or anything. And this car's coming toward me. The high beams are on. I'm like, "Oh, they're coming toward me. I should really put on the normal lights." So I put on the normal lights, and a solid minute goes by, and they haven't passed me just yet. And that's when I realized how flat Wisconsin was. Is that they were 3 miles down the road, and I'm like, "Wow!" And I looked at my wife, I'm like, "When are they gonna come by here?" Is all of Wisconsin like that?
No, not all of it. I mean, honestly, there's a lot of once you get up by the Mississippi, in the west side, Eau Claire, Minneapolis, it's all bluffs and lots of hills. Very heavily forested the further north you go. But down south, closer to the Illinois border, you get a lot of farms.
That's where I was. Yes.
Yeah. There's some hills, but it's pretty flat. It's not as flat as Nebraska or Iowa, but yeah, there's long stretches where there's just nothing.
It's nothing, and then you finally come to a town, and it's a bar on one side and a church on the other.
Yep, pretty much.
Phil, when you were driving down that highway with those headlights down the distance, did you ever think what it would be like to just drift into the other lane and see what happens if you had the head-on collision? Much like a famous movie quote from Annie Hall, I believe, with Christopher Walken's character.
Annie Hall, yep, it's Annie Hall. It sure does. Let's No, that did not cross my mind. No, not this particular time driving out there. No.
Good. We bring that up, listeners, because keep that in mind. We may talk about that later today in this episode.
Possibly.
All right, Hose, you're in Wisconsin. I imagine you were born on a skateboard, but I feel like that's why I know you very well. You're the premier skateboarder guy I know. I met you on a skateboard. I feel like you're always on a skateboard. When did you start skateboarding, and did that have anything to do with crafting your music taste of any way?
Yeah, so it was, let's see, my older cousin had a skateboard, and I kind of messed around on it, I don't know, maybe in 4th grade or something like that. And this is, it's now the southeastern Wisconsin. We grew up on a lake, but outside that lake was lots of farms, right? So not you think about coming from New York. I remember coming from New York and being like fuck Wisconsin, and I'm gonna do everything opposite everyone here does, you know. So the skateboarding, you know, finding things to do that not, you know, like that I wasn't gonna play football or anything like that, even though I did some of that stuff. But my cousin gave me like a skateboard. Oh no, please bear with me because this is a long time ago.
Hey.
I'm an old man.
It's okay.
I think my cousin had a skateboard and my mom got me one, a Santa Cruz deck. And then my oldest cousin, who's an artist, he painted it like yellow
Oh,
and
cool.
like messed up my grip tape. But it's still skating this thing. It's a big wide Santa Cruz board. And then sometimes when I get into things, I tend to really kind of study it and try to figure out how to get better to a certain point until like I kind of get bored with it. But right around fifth grade, I got my own real setup. You know, I got like a board, you know, for my birthday or something. And then my younger cousin got one. There's these three cousins that live down the street. They're all brothers. They're all older than me. But the youngest one is one I'm really tight with, right? He's a year older than me. But he started skating as well. But then his parents didn't want him skateboarding, so he started doing like BMX, like trick bikes, you know,
Oh,
that
cool.
stuff.
Cool.
But he was still into it and eventually got back into it. But me and him would be skating, and then a couple of our friends from like grade school. It was just something new to do. We were just having fun. But we'd watch these videos and everything was on VHS, right?
Right.
So we'd learn how to ollie by like you pause on the VHS recorder and then you can go frame by frame, right? And then you watch frame by frame and you watch the foot placement and how like the timing of it all. And I go in the garage and lean up against my parents' car, and that's how I learned how to ollie. All right.
Oh, cool.
And then once you learn how to ollie, it just opens up all kinds of stuff, right? So that's how I kind of got into skateboarding. And then I kept learning new stuff. I kept learning more stuff, watching more skate videos, and getting better at it. And at one point, I was semi-sponsored by the shop out of San Jose, California, called Sessions. Yeah. So Sessions was a big skate shop at the time. They sponsored like Tony Hawk, Caballero, Hosoi, all the big guys back then, a bunch of snowboarders. Craig Kelly over here in my wall behind me. It's equivalent of what getting Flow is today. When you get Flow, you're getting free stickers, maybe super discounted decks, free shirts. But I was in contact with the guy that owned this place, Joel Gomez, and he's like a legend. I haven't been out to California, not that I can remember, and it's this is a guy we saw in the magazines and stuff like that, and he's sponsoring all our favorite skateboarders and all this stuff, and so that was real cool, and that was all through high school. In college, it kind of dipped down some, but because partying a lot, and I went to school in the middle of Illinois where there's like no skateboarding, but once in a while I'd be able to skate. And then it wasn't after I moved back. See, I went to Boston and back to Chicago, and then what ended up happening was all these skate parks started popping up now, and it made it a lot easier to skate because at a certain age you get tired of running away from cops and into places and hopping fences to go skateboard. Bowls and transition became easier on my knees than street skating. So even to this day, I try to skate. I definitely don't skate as much as I do, but when I do, I try to, go to Venice or skate like bowls and ramps and things like that. Over by where you live, Jeff, there's that little skate park with that mini ramp and a couple cool curbs. So I do the old man thing. But yeah, that's how I got into it.
That's awesome.
I watched those skate videos for a different reason. It was because I wanted to hear the bands play. And that's where I learned a lot of punk bands. Like first time I heard NoFX was on one of them, or like Helmet, or like Lagwagon was on all these like old skate. And I remember we had got other kids in the video room in our high school we were having. They're all watching the skate. They were doing what you were doing, talk about all the moves and the for the skateboard and for also inline skate. And I was like, I'm just here for the music. I am not coordinated enough to do any of that, but I'm going to listen to NoFX play right now on the video.
Yeah, I mean that's where a lot of my music came from, those old skate videos of the 80s. You go back to, I think the first time the Ohio SkateOut video was this video of the 80s as a contest in Ohio. It was all SST bands on that soundtrack.
See, okay, all right,
like Dinosaur Jr., Descendants, Black Flag, Lawndale, and stuff like that. Then you get into Psycho Skate was Descendants. That's kind of a cheesy Vision skateboards, like
Okay.
promo video, like an advertisement for like her clothing wear, basically. But yeah, all those bands, even the girl skateboard stuff. In the last like 10, 20 years, that's where I first heard a Band of Horses. Geez, one of those videos, I heard Jets of Brazil on the skateboarding video. I just can't remember one.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was trying to remember which one that was. Built to Spill.
Be like a dreamy segment to have Jets to Brazil on there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Phil, did you ever skateboard, Phil, by the way? Just following up, you just watched the videos?
I tried to skateboard once and it didn't go great. And then I was like, well, maybe I'd be better at inline skating. And I tried that. I nearly split my pants when I fell down. And so no, I kind of abandoned coordination at that point and realized this is just not for me. I always love it. I love watching it. Hose, you talk about having all the skate parks now. I have a skate park now. They built one in my town. And I love it because it gives kids somewhere else to go that's not like doofy or dumb or so, it's like somewhere you can go and do something kind of positive and learn, and do a sport. It's a skill. It's a sport, man. Watch those guys move the board around or inline skate. It's amazing to watch.
No, the one down the street from me, I mean, it is packed all, from like
great
9 a.m. till sun goes down. There's always people there, and they're good. You walk by and you're just like, whoa.
Yeah, those guys are really good.
Yeah.
I'll drive by and I'll see the kids out there, and I don't want to be lame and like pull over and like watch them because I'm afraid like they'll be like, oh, creepy old man checking us out. I don't want that. So, but it's definitely cool that it's just a place for them to go, showcase their own skills, talk about show who they are as people in their way they skate. I think I love it.
Well,
yeah, even as older dudes or women, whatever, old gang, it's a good place to hang out. Called Lurking. Chicago skate does the skate park in Chicago. A bunch of us spent Christmas Day there because it was like 45 degrees and it was dry, and 3 of us were divorced. So we're just showing all the new hoodies we bought ourselves. Dude, it was great.
I heard you say lurker. That's another interesting word that might come up later. So that's really exciting as well. All right.
Interesting word.
All right, Jose. So when I got into punk music, and I always felt like, oh, maybe I can't be into punk music because I don't skate. And I like bought a skateboard at Toys R Us and like I went down my driveway and I'm like, that's enough. But I decided to listen to punk anyway. So I imagine you're watching the videos. Is this kind of, you mentioned some of the bands you heard, was this kind of the way in for music for you? Like, how did you get into the scene?
Okay, so this is wild. This is wild. It goes, let's see if I can track this back. Like, okay, somewhere around first or second grade, I went with my parents to the Philippines. Maybe that was like 8th grade. No, never mind. When did Megadeth's is it P-Cell Who's Buying?
P-Cells?
Yeah. Is that the one with the Sex Pistols cover on it?
No, that would be That would be So Good, So What?
Okay, so
that one. I think. I will double check for you, but go ahead.
So we had this older friend. He's about 4 years older than me. A bunch of Filipinos and their families moved from Brooklyn to Wisconsin to start like a medical clinic, and he was one of the sons, and he was super into metal. Right, so I got into Metallica through him, like Megadeth, things like that. So I can't remember which came out first, but that Megadeth album with Anarchy in the USA. So
that is So Far So Good, So What, which came out in 88.
88. And then when did Garage Days come out for Metallica?
Oh, that would have been later in the 90s. Wait, no, the original.
The original one.
The original one. The original. That's, I corrected myself. Hang on. Garage Days, the 598 EP would be 1987.
All right, so 87. So I think it started there. Heard that to my friend. And it's all Misfits covers, right? But love that album, right? And then I heard that Megadeth cover, I guess a year or two later. And it took me a couple of years, maybe a year or two to figure out that, those are covers of a band called the Misfits or Sex Pistols, right? So I kind of backtracked that way, and I always love those songs, particularly in that, Garage Days and in that Megadeth cover. And then I started kind of looking up, okay, let's find this original Sex Pistols song, and then Misfit stuff, and somehow found them. I also can't remember. Sid and Nancy came around right around then. Around the time I discovered who the Sex Pistols were. I feel like it kind of all happened around the same time. I would have been like in 7th and 8th grade.
The movie came out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So from there, like I just kind of fell in love with this sort of like, wasn't as crazy as like metal, but I always like catchy stuff, around the time I was listening to some U2, like early stuff. That was before Josh Ritchie came out, right? So and gosh, what else? There's some weird poppy songs in the movie Thrashin'. We're in the movie Thrashin' with Josh Brolin, skateboarding movie. Red Hot Chili Peppers was in it too, and I thought,
okay, yeah.
So it's weird, and then you just start like looking for the stuff somehow. And around the time I was skateboarding, and we were really skateboarding a lot, at the time. So we get Thrasher magazine, Trans World, and then you do a bunch of research. This is how we found our music back then, because there was no internet, and you kind of go off labels, like where these labels come from. So that's why SST was such a thing. You like the Descendants. You find out Descendants for an SST, then you start buying everything from SST.
Right.
And you all mail order. You can mail order through Thrasher magazine. You clip it out. I put it in an envelope. I put it in like $9.23, and there'd be pennies in there, and I'd mail it out. And 2 weeks later, I'd get an SST cassette, and then sometimes they'll send you free samplers, and you start learning that way, right? And then you start seeing on MTV, particularly 120 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where everything kind of exploded. So now you're starting to get, outside of punk rock, you're getting into like what was like the college rock or the alternative music back then. Things like Liz Phair, Jesus and Mary Chain, Smashing Pumpkins. What are some of these older stuff that isn't quite punk rock, but still outside the norm. But then always just fell in love with the energy and like the edge of punk rock. So you start listening to that when you skateboard, and then you watch more skate videos, and then you're learning more music. It's usually playing some of the same stuff. So that's kind of how I kind of got into the scene. It was through metal.
Interesting.
But really expanded through skateboarding videos and 120 minutes, to be honest. Yeah.
It's very funny because I got in very similarly as my older sisters were metal, like both like metal. Well, my older sister Jen was very post-punk, so very Joy Division world, like that, like proto-punk, a lot of that. But then my other sister Liz brought me into, I learned about Metallica and Megadeth and like Typo Negative. And to this day, it's still some of my fondest memories is driving to school with Liz, and she's playing Typo Negative, and we're playing she's driving the big Delta 88. We had Oldsmobile Delta 88.
Those wholesome rides to school in Typo Negative,
Yeah, Typo Negative. And it was, hey, dude, I thought that was the coolest thing. I was 9th grade. I thought that was the coolest thing, being driven to school by a senior. And we're playing Typo Negative. I thought that was cool. Yep.
I still think that's cool.
I still think that's cool. Yeah, no, looking back, I'm like, I still think that's cool.
All right, Hose. So I feel like you love these bands, so many different bands of this scene. What if, okay, let's say we told you could skate Mount Rushmore. First, you're going to knock down the president's head and reshape it with 4 bands or artists. And you can ollie off of them. Mm-hmm. Can you ollie off of things? I'm not sure if my lingo is correct. But
yep, you can.
You could do a thingy on the thing. It's called a grind, bro. I'm Scott Pilgrim. Anyway, you can grind down this new Mount Rushmore that you've re-chiseled with these artists or bands. Who's up there for you?
I think number 1 would be New Order.
Not Joy Division, New Order.
No, I was thinking about this. I'm going to say New Order. I think they're more influential, and I connect more with them now than I.
Yeah.
1989, I would have said Joy Division, hands down. I would. If you asked me if I like New Order in 1989, I would tell you no. But like secretly, I was kind of like,
Well, it sounds like there might be a theme for today where looking back, you're like, wow, I now really appreciate an album a bit more than I did when it first came out.
yeah. My reason for New Order is like you can hear the Joy Division in New Order if you listen to some of these songs and you listen closely, and it's that was a revelation to me over like the last 10, 15 years or so. Like it finally like you revisit these bands once in a while, right? And then I don't know, for some it finally clicked. It's like, oh, God, this is such an awesome combination of the two at times,
All right, so we got New Order.
We got other ones, Descendants.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Yep. There you go.
Gotta be Descendants.
Godfathers of pop punk.
Mm-hmm. The Pixies.
Cool.
And this fourth one is tough. I'm gonna say
you said the Pixies?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that because I got a comment about a song coming up about that. Okay.
Oh, cool. I'm gonna say The Cure.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Now I'm really excited you said that because I got a comment coming.
Yeah, all these are really hitting a chord today.
I feel like there's a bit of a thread that runs through these four things that kind of mush them together, and I think you've got the band we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. Well, what's funny about your list? I think of you as such like a punk rock guru, and you only have one technical punk band on your top four, which is really cool. So. Yeah. And it's like a poppier one too, which is funny. It's
a popular, but like all these bands, they have some kind of punk rock history to them.
True.
That's what's interesting. True. And I know this is probably gonna feed into what you guys are gonna talk about, but like the evolution throughout these different bands and what they've become from how they started is amazing, and particularly to my musical tastes as well, right?
Well, and we've covered The Cure before last season 1, and I'm gonna say this right now: without these four bands, you don't have what this is like the start of like the emo punk world, really, like what it becomes in the mid '90s. Like I can hear it with all these bands, like kind of weird. They're outcasts. They got like they're really kind of out of step with everybody. Oh, I did a Minor Threat reference, but it's just they just kind of are off the beaten path a little bit, and I do think you need people like us who listen to these bands who went on to start the bands in the mid '90s, and this is what we listened to, and this is what shaped how we or even the earlier '90s. This is what shaped us into being the musicians we were.
Mm-hmm. Or not, it's
not
all
me.
part of.
I wasn't
right.
a musician.
It's all part of the steps. While we're recording this, there was just an article in the New York Times talking to Michael Stipe about. He's getting ready to put out his first solo record post REM.
Oh wow, okay.
And there's a whole like really good article. If you look it up, you can Google it, and it's just kind of like talking to him about where he's been and what's been going on and what's taken him so long to get back into music. But there's a point where he's at Electric Ladyland Studios one day where Taylor Swift's friends are hanging out, Jack Antonoff and Matty Healy from 1975, and the reporter's watching them talk, and Matty Healy apparently says to Michael Stipe, he's like, my argument is REM is the first emo band, and ever since then I've been listening to REM and be like, really? And then I'm like, maybe he's got a point here. Anyway, that's
now you say it, I'm like, maybe there is something there. I mean, well, emo just kind of came out of that college rock world, which makes sense for that general area because they're from Rome, what are they? Rome, Georgia, right? I think that's where
Athens.
They came. Athens was Athens.
Yeah.
It's a some type of Rome or Athens or maybe Sparta. Let's just get them all in there, and they kind of came from there, and that's this a relative proximity to where a lot of emo gets credited, which is in the DC area.
Well, I think part of it too, and this goes back to some of these bands as well. I think maybe the Descendants fit in here, and where are the Pixies from? I always forget.
Boston.
They're Boston.
Yeah.
All right.
UMass, but
UMass. Yeah, I think I specifically think it's Amherst.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's what it is. It's like Athens, Georgia, Amherst, and then even the descendants are like Huntington Beach, right? Or
Yeah, Huntington Beach. Yep.
Redondo or something. Right?
Redondo, yeah. So
Oh my
they're
God.
these like there are these places outside of major cities
Mhm.
where a lot of this music kind of like started forming because it's bored suburban kids, really, right? And isn't that where kind of comes from?
Yeah.
All right, but we're not going to talk about REM today because that had something to do with anything we're talking about, really. Well, maybe you can make connections. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, Pose, to start us off, from New Order, Descendants, Pixies, and The Cure, is there a song from one of these bands that you would like us to listen to right now?
I would say play Ceremony from New Order.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Here is Ceremony by the band New Order. So we start off with some New Order, but today we're here to talk about not New Order. We're here to talk about a band known as Jawbreaker. Jawbreaker is at least for me, and I feel like you probably were in the same boat. Pose, you remember when they were active, right? You were following, yeah. So for me, Jawbreaker was always one of those bands, like a Lifetime, like a Silent Majority. These bands who were mythical because they were, or even Texas is the Reason. These bands who like everyone always talked about. Oh, you had to be there for this. But Jawbreaker was like that, but they had an even bigger mark because they were. There's a famous picture of Kurt Cobain wearing a Jawbreaker shirt. It's like one of those things where like Kurt Cobain like Jawbreaker. They brought them on tour at one point.
On tour, on tour with them.
Yeah. So this is a band. They came out of the Berkeley scene. Originally from, the guys are originally from Los Angeles. Then they went to NYU. Then they ended up in NorCal when they started the band. So they were very much of that world that created bands like Green Day or Op Ivy. All that stuff was happening around there. And they were a beloved punk band. They had multiple albums, and they were known for saying how they would never sell out, and they would always be punk forever. Famous last words.
Famous last words.
Once again, we're in season 2, but we got to keep talking about Dan Ozzi's book Sellout. His chapter on Jawbreaker and this album in particular that we're going to be talking about today is everything you ever need to know about it. They interview Blake Schwarzenbacher, the lead singer of Jawbreaker. They talk about the making the album. They talk about the response, and subsequently the quick breakup of the band after this album came out because it did not perform like the major labels had hoped. It came out September 12th, 1995 on DGC Records, their major label debut, which Geffen Records, their thought was, well, Dookie had just become a huge hit. Offspring Smash had just become a huge hit. Punk was like selling big time. So it only made sense that they would be the next band to also become superstars and a big hit. That was the hope. It was produced by Rob Cavillo, who also worked on Dookie and would later do albums such as American Idiot by Green Day and one of my favorites, The Black Parade by My Chemical Romance. Which when we listen to this album, it's kind of like, okay, I hear why Frank Iero of My Chem said when they wanted to do Black Parade, they wanted Rob Cavillo because of Dear You, the album we're talking about today.
Yeah.
Jawbreaker's Dear You was critically acclaimed and absolutely despised by their fans.
Absolutely despised. Absolutely hated by their fans.
Pose, do you want to give us a glimpse into why a Jawbreaker fan was not happy about this album when it came out in 1995?
My friend from Wisconsin, who I grew up with, I don't know why, but he like texted me like maybe 2 months ago and brought this up. Remember that Dear You album? How much we fucking hated it? Like, yeah, it's like it still sucks. I'm like, I'm gonna listen to it again. I couldn't get through it. So there's a couple things. One of them is the sellout thing is a real thing, right? Back then, we did not like our bands going to major labels at all. We were listening to Green Day before he went on on Dookie. We felt the same way about Dookie. By the time Nirvana was blown up and they're taking Jawbreaker on tour, we thought that was a sellout move. Like we gone past Nirvana already, like very quickly. But I think a lot of it is, even when you're young. So like I graduated high school in 92. So that gives you some context of where we're probably approaching the height of my music snobbery, right? But it's we saw these bands getting snatched up because all of a sudden all this music's on the radio and stuff like that, and we knew it's kind of like a money grab thing, and we weren't quite totally sure what was going on. Clinton was about to become president. We're coming out of the Bush years and the Reagan years, and we barely understood what that meant, but we knew something was not right. But seeing all these bands that we're listening to, like on bootleg CDs and cassette tapes, and now they're on Geffen and like Warner Brothers and all this stuff, just didn't make any sense. And a lot of it had to do with what we believe is just being so overly produced. Like, it sounds different, right? You compare this record, for instance, to like 24 Hour. I've been listening to it all week and just listening to the both, and it sounds so clean. It sounds so like it's lost the grit. It's lost the part of the energy because of that. And particularly with this album, I think that would be our first reaction. When I think about it, we also haven't really heard much like this yet, so we weren't
exactly
sure what to make of it, right? That Sunny Day Real Estate album, Dear Diary, right?
Yeah.
So that came off on Sub Pop the year before, and I had this conversation with my cousin too, like 2 months ago. We listened to that, and Sub Pop up to that point was all grunge, and stuff like that, like Sonic Youth and things like that, right? We're like, what the hell is this? We were so confused to what was going on and this pivot. So I think that's, when you listen to this album now, and you kind of get, you see it's an evolution, but we weren't wanting that back then, right? So it's a combination of the sellout thing, the overproducedness, and we just wanted more sort of like what we expect from this band.
No, and that totally makes sense. I mean, and again, going back to, if you read Dan On's sellout book, it talks a lot about this idea of selling out, which now is not even on the table. It's like no new band is worried about it. Like, every new band is like, well, yeah, I want to sell. Like, you know what I mean? Like this punk rock mentality that was kind of formed in like the 80s and held on until the late 90s, early 2000s, basically, kind of like permeated everyone's look at things. But like, this album is the definition of ahead of its time, because they did something drastic compared to their sound, but what they were really doing was just they were moving forward with their music, which in punk is like a big no-no. If you're No Effects, you need to sound like No Effects, right? Like, that's kind of like the thing. But here they're like
forever. No changing.
Yeah. Every album should sound the same, right? But here they had the money. They had money to make actually spend time recording, and they are musicians, and they push themselves, right? And like,
well, even with Blake, he had to get surgery to get polyps on his vocal cords, and like he literally can't sound like he used to sound like, guys. Like, it's just like, I'll go listen to Kiss the Bottle, and the guy sounds like he's like shoving glass down his throat, and it's just like, it's like cool to hear, but at the same time, like, this is a dude who's having such anguish singing because of all the polyps on his throat. So like, he literally, for his own health, had them removed. But now he can't sound like he used to sound, right? He physically can't. But let's give him crap about that too. What?
Well, I remember that we had heard some rumors or read about it like in a magazine, like, oh, he's singing softer because we think he had surgery, and like, okay, so we keep that in mind.
Yeah, like let's keep that in mind, guys. Like, he was trying to take care of something, the health wise. But no, but even then, it is, they don't scream it. It's not like the other albums where it's more of a screamy sound to it. It's much more of a sing to it.
Yeah.
Well, it's, and also that, I mean, the songs are different. Like, they're a little, some of them are slower. There's more attention to the artistry of the album that wasn't really there in the other ones. And then on top of that, like, I think lyrically, this album is, I mean, he is a literary guy. I mean, he has a degree in like some literature, MFA in some literature program he got years later. He taught at New School at one point in New York, literature. So like, he's a literary minded guy, and the lyrics in this album, I mean, some of them are abstract, and it's like, what is this really about? And it's like, they're so evocative, and it's the difference. I think this adds to it, not just the fans turning on them, but Green Day and Offspring, you understood what the songs were about very clearly. They were very pop. these songs are thinkers. You have to like think about what's actually being said here, which doesn't bode well for when you're trying to break out to the masses usually.
Did I read this right? Like 24-hour was about a breakup, and this album is about after that breakup or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So even lyrically, you could start hearing the emo starting to come out of this music, right? Out of this album, right?
Right, but that's not even a word that they were even like. I don't think they were thinking like, let's make an emo. Like in
Oh, it
the
didn't
early,
exist. We didn't know what
yeah,
the hell that word. I didn't hear it till like 2000 or something like
right.
that.
Early 2000s bands suddenly said, let's be emo bands. You know, like yeah, whatever that was. And then, but they all listened to this album. They loved it because this album comes out in '95. Then 5 years later, these early 2000 bands, they love this record. They were like obsessed with this album because they found it later without the context of them selling out. They're just like, wow, this is like really introspective and deep, and it rocks, and it's like what, and it's you can feel the punk roots, but it's something different, and like yeah, I think all of that. When Jawbreaker was never going to reunite, and then a few years back was like 2016ish, they put out that documentary about them, and that was the first inkling that maybe there's some smoke here. And then everybody was like, one day Riot Fest is going to get them to come back together in Chicago, and lo and behold, they did. And then they did a little tour. They did a couple shows in New York, a couple shows in LA. Hose, we went to the show in LA. One of them, I think you went to a bunch of them, but I remember Blake looking out at the Palladium, which was about what like 5,000 people at the Palladium,
something like that. Yeah,
they play a couple songs, and he looks out and he just says, "Where were all you in the '90s? Like what happened?" And it's just because a lot of people found them after the fact.
They did, and like even the I think it was a Dear You tour, but they were playing halls to 500 people. And, and that's in the mid '90s, still 500 people. To go to an arena now or an area or show now and play 5,000, I mean, that's just an astonishing growth. I was just looking up just to get an idea of the breadth of how many bands have cited Jawbreaker as an influence. And you've got Get Up Kids, you got Texas is the Reason. You can go so far as say Fall Out Boy, My Chem, Bayside, Face to Face, and even Sparta. I mean, so I assume even then at the drive-in, then into Sparta. But like, just to give you an idea of what bands would not be the sound the way they do if Jawbreaker hadn't existed prior.
Well, thankfully the album got heard by people and it survived. And it's something that people hold very dearly now. Because it's interesting because the first track on this album is talking to the youth, and there's advice. It's the first song. I think this is a hell of an opener.
Well, before we get into that, you said it's talking to you. The name of the album is Dear You.
Dear You, yeah.
Like we're talking to you, the listener. And that's who I've always assumed it was you, the listener. Although if you do the 24-hour the therapy story where that's about the breakup, and then this is about that a little bit, I wonder like also the love interest could be dear love interest here. But let's just go with Dear You, the listener, because it segues nicely into Save Your Generation.
Well, yeah, Dear You, Save the Generation. Save Your Generation is the opening song, and it's a very positive song where it's being very honest, where I feel like it's a message to the youth who are listening. It's basically saying it's okay to make mistakes. I'm still making them. So maybe that is the reference to the breakup. Maybe he's kind of dealing with that. It's like, look, I'm still screwing up, but you have to wake up. You have to go out and try, I feel like that is kind of like the message of the song.
Yeah, it's like I have a present. It's the present. Like be in the now right now. That's what I think. It's funny because I feel like there's such a Gen X comment on slackerism, like of just like the time, because there's 95 and that's like the Gen X time before us millennials took over, although it depends on what timeline I'm on. I'm either one way or the other, but it's funny. I just feel like it's like a wake-up call, like save your generation. Like it's just such a Gen X-y kind of, because he even says, what is it, survivalism, what is it? Hang on. Never goes out of style. I feel survival never going out of style. Such a Gen X thing to say, because you have to survive all the time. But see, if you're in flight all the time, that means you're not in the moment and enjoying things, which is really what I think the song's about. What was it? Professor Douchebag has spoken.
Oh yeah. Well, the professor should also bring up the Finnegan's Wake
The
reference.
Finnegan's Wake reference. Yeah, also the Finnegan Wake reference. Yeah. No, but I think that's really it's a it is a positive song, but it's also because waking up and sleeping is a theme that pops up a lot through a lot of the song lyrics. And so I like out of the gate this kind of positive mentality, like, guys, wake up and enjoy things and be in the moment and revel in it.
The call to arms of the chorus, if you could save yourself, you could save us all. It
Right.
really puts the onus on the individual to kind of like, don't do this just for yourself. I mean, we're all counting on you. Yeah.
Right. And then the next part is go on living, prove us wrong. Like, go on living. Like, what is it, Jeff? What's the great line from Buffy season 5?
Live.
Live. Yeah, the hardest thing to do in life is to live in it. You know,
Yeah.
that's what it is. And I think that's kind of where this song's going.
All right. What about the sound of this song? Like, so when you hear this song now, opening the album, what's your take on it?
I'll tell you, okay. These first 3 or 4 songs on his album, and this I can't stand the opening strains of it, right? For the first 4 or 5 songs, but for all of these, like the choruses are really good. So once it drops in these choruses, it gets my attention, and I do like them, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason, whenever I hear it, even I just start cringing a little bit. Right?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but like I'll push through it, and it's I don't know what it is. I think lyrically, I think I'm okay with most of these songs, but I think it's musically, it's and might be the sound of it or whatever too. But I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't seem to mesh. Like they seem almost like 2 different songs to me. Or
I am so happy you said that, because this album, particularly, I feel like I want to take the lyrics of one song and the music of another one and put those together. I can't give you an example right now, but I literally had that thought earlier today, and I'm so excited you said that. I'm like, yes. I'm like, now I'm gonna start thinking about if I can mush them together, what would I do?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like these first few songs, they run together for me because of that. But like I said, like once you get into those choruses, I don't know, they're so much better. Like there's even one song I want to say the word childish came up for one of these riffs to me. I don't know. I can't remember which one it was, but yeah, that's my thing. That's my thing musically with it. Yeah.
All right. Well,
And Million comes up in the song, and that comes up in a couple other songs too.
There's a lot of thematics
Yes.
words that come up back and forth through all of them. Well, let's save the generation of people listening to our podcast by listening to Save Your Generation. So here is Save Your Generation off Jawbreaker's Dear You. All right, so that's the opening track. Dear You.
Jeff, I gotta get something off my chest. We played Ceremony by New Order earlier, and I've always felt that Orgy's version of Blue Monday was better than New Order's.
That's insane. That's insane. We should have another special episode just to talk about that and why that's wrong.
I just saying, it hits, so it takes everything that New Order song could be and just amplifies it and makes it so much louder and more of a headbanging kind of jam.
Phil, you said Joy Division's version of it. It might be on Spotify now, but it's off this live album called Still.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's probably even speedier and a little heavier than the New Order.
See, that's where I'm at. What are you gonna say, Jeff?
Oh, I was gonna say you've mentioned this before. I'm sure you've gotten hate mail, but now the New Order fan base of the world can just call you what you are, and that's the animal that's on the cover of this album.
That's it. I'm just a big old ass. That's all I am. That's okay. You guys send your letters to New Hampshire. I'm ready for it. Bring it on.
But I just wanted to also bring up the donkey on the cover of the album. Which
is that a commentary on the U? Are we saying that the U is the donkey? Is the person who wrote the deer part, which is epistolary? Remember, Jeff, epistolary is deer, is a letter form.
Yes.
Is the donkey the writer?
It could be, right? On the ass rather.
It could be.
Yeah, I'm trying to help you. Well, well, you can say this much: the title of the second track is a mouthful. It's called
Let's get into a very emo title.
"I Love You So Much It's Killing Us Both." What do you think of this song, Bill?
I don't know if this should be a relationship you should be in. This just gets, I don't know. It's like I love you so much. It's killing us both. I mean, that's kind of creepy. Like as a creepy creep kind of character. If we're gonna kind of go there with that. Where's the one part? Hang on. There was one part here. It was like, oh, that's super creep. Oh yeah, right here in the beginning. Should we get married or just go on killing each other? It's like, dude, that's rough. I don't know if this is a relationship you should be in. What do you? Should he be in this relationship? Should they be in the relationship? I should be more better with my pronouns.
I mean, my feeling of the song is just, wow, this is a toxic relationship, and they need to get out. They need to get out. How can I save you when I couldn't save a dime? I mean, like,
oh, I like that line. I like that line a lot. Yeah.
This is the first one that, and this comes up a bunch in these where I'm like, I could see these being reworked as Alkaline Trio songs sometimes.
The whole album could be reworked as an Alkaline Trio album. Yes.
There's definitely that kind of, like, this title too. That definitely feels like a Matt Skiba type of a topic. And then, like, this line: "If you can't be the life of the party, you'll be the death of everyone." Like, I love that play on the words in there.
This is the first song on the album where he starts getting into what he kind of wants in life, or like, because he brings up wanting in a couple other songs, and it's like him exposing and speaking about what he would like in a relationship. I guess that's really where I'm going with it. But even also, you said, Jeff, about the last song, is it's more of a candid, like, realistic, honest look at yourself. But I think he's acknowledging he is a flawed character.
Yes.
To a really upbeat sounding song. What do you think, Hose? You said you didn't like the first run of songs. I think you said 4 to 5, which is like the full first half of the album.
Side A, yeah.
It comes in sections.
Yeah.
Literally, this song's interesting. Like, this is when I used to fight with Jeff and all the emo crowd, like I talk about how, like, emos is like, can be, there's so much feeling in punk rock or whatever, and we weren't interested in feelings back in the mid early 90s. I mean, this is revealing and very, very loaded with feelings, and like, I think I could be right. I mean, which is totally fine. This is a start of that. I can see why this would be so influential for pop punk and the emo scene that was later to come. But it's just interesting seeing this, because I can't tell you if there's a Descendants song that's even close to something like this revealing. It's more like on the sleeve sort of stuff, or maybe very superficial, like "Silly Girl, I'm in Love with You," and that's it. I'm not gonna dig into that. It's ride with it.
Well, vulnerability. I mean, this is somebody who's really kind of like, even if it makes him look bad to write songs like this and admit these things, he's putting it out there, and it's it's the shadow self coming out, and like all that good psychological stuff.
Well, which I'm gonna go in defense of the genre, or I'm gonna reference Say Anything, but or the Academy is that
not Say Anything.
That was Say Anything. Okay, I was right. Okay, is I like the fact you've got a guy who grew up kind of in a punk scene, who was doing something against the norm, which is what a traditional punk song would be, and is putting something out there to be vulnerable, kind of go against the grain. Like, I'm a huge Bad Religion fan, right? And I love that, but they're very straightforward. They're a very straightforward punk band, right? But I like when I particularly like it with Bad Religion when Brett and Greg get a little more vulnerable in some songs. They don't do it often. But here's the whole band. He's gonna put it out there, and I feel like it's a very punk rock thing to do, to take something that no one's doing and try to go against the grain and it's very DIY. It really is. I mean, this is why this is an album I don't. It definitely was. I don't think it was appreciated in time that it came out. And it's only just getting legs. Honestly, within like realistically, the last like decade, it finally got legs. What it really could be,
Yeah.
you know.
No, I think that's very true. I think what's interesting too is the thematic connection, and maybe this is also why you're feeling it. I feel like this song goes into the next song in a similar way. So if this song is they're struggling with this toxic relationship, they can't get out of it. Punch me, wake me up. This lullaby is blue. Lie and say we're through. He. It sounds like the narrator wants the person to break up with him, but they're not, and it's bad. Then we get into the track 3, which is Fireman, which again we are going deep metaphors here. To me, this is some Fahrenheit 451 fireman stuff here. This is the fireman's supposed to put out fires. In Fahrenheit 451, they take the fireman who's supposed to put out fires, and their job is actually to burn books, right? In this one, the fireman is burning down this relationship.
Right.
Burning it to the he's doing a whole bunch of things. He's burning it down. He's throwing tidal waves at it. He's what was another one? Oh, if he was an astronaut, he'd shoot you down like a jar. Like, just goodness great. A lot of really wants to take down this relationship.
Yeah. Interesting note about this. Again, the album came out. The band was already having some issues with each other. Then the bad reception of the album, band breaks up. This is the only single and only video off this album. This was the hope that this would blow up on MTV and would, set them afire, man.
Nicely done. I like that. Which I gotta admit, this is a strange choice for a single.
Isn't it? I always think that.
It's a really strange choice for a single. Because honestly, I think there's better songs that would have worked better as a poppier hook to get him in.
Well, later in the album, we have a straight up pop punk song they could have done. You know what I mean?
Like 2, there's a
couple of them,
where I'm like, okay, I can hear these as and still be reflective of the band as a single, which I think works. It's not like what was it, like Sixpence None the Richer, who did Love Fool as a single, which is not reflective of that band. That band was a very different band than what that song put out. But you know what? That's the Cardigans. That was it. Thank you. See, I've already forgotten what that band was like. This is a mishmash in my head where I have 1.5 million bands I'm trying to keep straight. But I think some of those other songs would work better as singles. Fireman, I don't get why it was a single.
This might have been why I hated this album so much. Is that this is the only video, and we saw this one, right?
See, everything worked against this album. It's like a tidal wave crashing and ravaging the shore. What a great line. Is everything worked against the band at this album.
I know this is the one.
But and it's again being a single, like having. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was saying I can't stand his voice on this one in the verse. This is the one I hate his voice the most because it's so prominent, I think, and it's smoothed out or whatever. Again, it drops in the chorus, so it's actually really good.
Yeah, if you could hear the dreams I've had, my dear, they would give you nightmares for a week. That's scary stuff.
I mean, again, this is Alkaline Trio vibes the whole way. I mean,
the whole way. Yeah.
To tell someone you don't want to be with them by saying, if I was a vampire, I wouldn't suck your blood. Like, yeah.
If I was your landlord, I'd show you. If you had other lovers, I'd be showing your apartment to get rented out by other people. I mean, just goodness gracious. Also admits he's a creep.
Yeah.
Which I guess is a positive for 1995, because men actually being honest and they're like, no, I'm a creeper. It's okay. I'm gonna tell you that I am. Versus a lot of other pop punk songs, which are somewhat anti-women, but.
Well, yeah, and the other thing I want to add to this in saying 1995, this line of like, honey, it's depressing what depression does to some. I feel like now we talk about depression all the time. Like it's something people talk about. In 1995, was anybody talking about depression? And like he's singing about having depression, right? Like, and again, that's where I'm like, that's why maybe it was way ahead of its time, because it's like nobody is talking about this. Like that's like I can only imagine that even talking about depression was probably seen as like a weakness or something at the time to some people. Yeah. So again,
I feel like '95 was the first time I remember hearing like kids on like Prozac, for the first time and having to deal with like things. But it was like few and far between. Like talking about depression and then to actually talk about it openly was very ahead of the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I used to work with special needs, like behavioral kids in the late '90s, and Prozac and Ritalin were the hot meds, just going around for everything.
Mm-hmm. I remember a college roommate of mine selling his Ritalin to my other college roommate, and then that second college roommate snorted it, which was really great to watch. And we're trying to watch the Patriots play the Jets football game, and I'm like, oh, this is happening to me. All right then.
Where'd you go to college, Phil?
I'd rather not name. I'd rather not name Hartford University aloud. That would look bad on them. I did not have a good semester. Not for me that first year. I was learning who I was as a student, and it certainly wasn't a good one that first year.
Well, it sounds like you were prone to accidents back then.
It's possible. Self-inflicted accident prone. I was.
Before we get to track 4, accident prone, Hose, I'm going to blow you up on the record for everybody in the world because this song coming up is very emotional, very moving, very emo, and
all 6 minutes of it.
It's one thing you have to know about Hose is Hose was kind enough to go with me on a night a little over 9 years ago. There was a Facebook post about something called an emo night called Taking Back Tuesday in Echo Park, California, and I said, Hose, we have to go to this, and he said, okay, even though not an emo fan, but he's like, I'll go. And to his credit, he went with me, and Hose was at the very first LA emo night that ever happened, which has now gone on to be, a tried and true traditional sensation of Los Angeles culture. But Hose was there at the first one, being like,
yeah.
I think you went to like as a sociology experiment. You're like, I want to see what this is all about.
Pretty much, yeah. I was back in the third, and yeah. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, you saw. Okay, I see the punk roots here. I get it. Okay.
What blew my mind, I remember saying this, like, man, every person in this bar knows every single word to every song that's being played, and they're screaming it out. And that impressed me. I like, oh, that's fucking cool.
Yeah, and not just one band. Like they played like 50 bands in every song. Yeah.
And that's not limited to in Los Angeles. We have, granted, smaller scale, but we do have some emo nights here in New Hampshire. And I tell you, people come out for them, and I know every goddamn song they play, and I scream along with it. Me and all 50 of us are there. And you know what? We have a great time.
Cathartic. Well,
it is. It is cathartic. It's catharsis. It really is.
All right. Accident prone. So I can imagine Hose, if the Jawbreaker fan is listening to this album and they get through these first 3 tracks, which I think they rock. Are they more polished? Yes, I get that. Okay, I can understand the production if you're not used to that. But then this track comes on, and this is like nothing that they've done before.
Yeah, and I'm going to lump this one in with the other 4, another 3 songs. This is where it ends though, because the next 3 I think are a good block. But again, same thing. Is this the one with the? I'm trying to remember how this one starts. But
it's just this simple like bum 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 bum, like just playing the strings each note one by one.
All right, yeah. And then drops into the chorus, and it's awesome. That's pretty much how I feel.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you. With like, I think like it is an outlier kind of song, or like Jeff. I'm actually going to equate it to Black Sails by AFI, where on Black Sails they would try a few things, right? They did some slower songs with like Club Smoke Catharsis and the other one, and it almost kind of ballady. And I was wondering today while I was thinking about this for the show is this one of those songs where had there been another album, this might have shown where they were going?
Yeah, I would think so. Because I feel like it's more ballady, it's more slow, it's more moody, but the words are really like heavy, you know. I mean, this is to me. There's you know, when it comes to accident prone, it's like, is he talking about I'm prone to self harm? I keep a room in the hospital. You know, like the you know, what's the closest you can come to an almost total wreck and still walk away all limbs intact? Like there's this like again very raw vulnerability here, kind of being like, you know, can you do this with me? Because this is a problem. I'm not well.
No, yeah, because even it sort of alludes to like I keep a room at the hospital. I feel like that is like the mental part of that, like, or are you injured, right? Are you like in the emergency room? Are you in the psych ward? Sounds stupid. We don't do that, I guess, but that would be whatever it is now. You want to call it that? Is that what he's talking about? Like, I feel
Well,
like, and then if
that,
it's accident prone, I wonder, is it self-imposed accidents or was it? It just always he always that guy who's just wrong place, wrong time.
I mean, the chorus to me is the part where I like a near miss or a close call. I keep a room at the hospital. I scratch my accidents into the wall, which to me is like keep writing down the next one that happened, right? Like keep tally marks or whatever it is. I couldn't wait to breathe your breath. I cut in line. I bled to. I mean, I can't hear that word. I cut in line and bled to death to not evoke cutting oneself.
Right.
Just even if it's not what it means, it's hard not to have that come to your mind. And I got to you. There was nothing left. Like there's this just struggle going on with this person, and they know what they know they're accident prone, but like, how do you get close to someone when like it's like this?
What's the difference, Jeff, between a near miss and a close call?
A near miss.
What is your interpretation of that?
I feel like I almost wonder, like a near miss to me sounds like, I think for me a near miss sounds more positive than a close call.
Mm.
Like almost like, it was a near miss. Then we almost met up with each other. It was a near miss, you know.
Positive versus okay.
And a close call is like, whew, good thing we got out of that. It was a close call. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah, I was gonna say close call, but dodge that one.
Yeah.
No, that's 100%. That's exactly what I was thinking. That it just there's like a near miss, like just 3 more seconds earlier, and I would have had it. Versus close call, which is like, whew, good thing I didn't, go into this room or, picked up
I
that or
also think of near miss as like you just missed it because but you were trying to, right?
Right.
Yep.
right.
So there's an
Yeah.
intent in there, and there isn't one with a close call. Yeah.
Right. That's good. The intent. Yeah, you were trying to hit it, but you missed.
So then he's thinking about whether or not why he's in here.
Right.
Is it a positive or a negative?
I mean, this is a song where, to me, the vibe is just it's just a personal struggle here, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this line too. I mean, and just some of these lines, like this is like the poetry he does. Is like, if I go, don't forget the one good thing I almost did. Like, if I go, does that mean like if I die from this? Like, what does he mean from that? But I learned your name without words. I used my eyes and not my hands. That's such an evocative line. Learned your name without words. Does that mean like I just totally understood you? I learned exactly who you are. I knew you on a deep level.
It's like a visual versus like a tactile thing. So I think
Yeah.
it's more like you actually have gotten to know the person without, or is it like the other way around and it's really creepy? Like I've never actually talked to you or interacted with you, but I've watched you from far a bunch of times because it's very lurksome. I don't know if that's a word, but I've made it into a thing.
I mean, there's also that part of it too. Yeah, this could be all in his head. There's always that part of it, and like this is like,
yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, Alkaline Trio lyrics, all of them. Even I'll just go fast into this night on broken legs. But you can't, and also that goes opposite what we said earlier about being intact.
Yep.
So I guess you're not intact.
He does a lot of contradictions in his lyrics. Like that's like and it's really effective. It's really again,
Well,
his work.
Blake's a poet. Yeah, Blake.
Yeah.
He's a poet. He knows how to conjure an image, to write something down, to make and make kind of second guess yourself. Where you're like, oh, I don't know what he's kind of saying. It just, which leaves it up to interpretation. So bringing some lyrical poetry to it.
Well, I definitely want to play this song, but I would like to give a tip to the people here and everyone in this diner listening into our conversation. If you've never done it, look up Julian Baker's cover of this song. I think there's like live, she does it live. It's Julian Baker. If you know her sound, she's got that very like haunting, like soft, very emotional voice. But she does a solo piano cover of this song, and
Ooh.
it 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 just takes us to a whole other level. I feel like of the anguish of the singer, the way she does it, and I highly recommend. I wish there was a recording of it that I could actually listen to on Spotify, but there's not. But it's on YouTube. I've watched it many times. It's very heartbreaking, very desperate. It's, good time. Anyway, let's play "Accident Prone" by Jawbreaker. Now, Hose, you set us up. You said, let's get to the first 4 tracks, and then you're ready to have a part.
We're getting into something that's getting good. Chemistry, these next 3 are a good block, I feel like.
Track 5, Chemistry.
Nicely done. Nicely done. Nicely done. Let's go back to high school. How about that?
That's what, yeah, we are. That's Hose, you're like, what? Can we just go back to high school and talk about something
Yeah, right.
a little more I can grab my hands around? Not.
Oh, man.
I love this song. I love this song so much. Because it's like, I think a lot of it is just like he's happy about not fitting in with anybody, and he's like totally cool with that. And I'm like, God, I wish I was like that in high school, where I was like, no, fuck you guys. I'm not gonna be. I'm happy being an outsider. Like I was not, and I love the fact that he is. What was the one part?
Lyrically, this resonates to 24-hour for me.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yes, I feel like this could have been a leftover of that song, of that album. Yeah.
And even musically, like it just kind of pushes all the way through. You know, there's energy to it. It's it's
My stupid hair is so 82 to you, which is hilarious. That means it's like it's 10 years old. That's how old this haircut is. I mean, it's little things like that that really give you an image of what it looks like. And at least I don't fit in. That's a great line. At least I don't fit in, which means I might have a terrible haircut, but I'm not fitting in with you guys, and I'm okay with that.
It definitely has this feeling like, I guess, which is interesting. It's like writing a song about high school, clearly years after leaving high school. So there is like kind of this nostalgia to it, which I think adds to the song too. It's not like he's in high school writing this song. This is him reflecting back and like, as I think you're saying, Phil, like being proud of who he was.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I also think it's funny when I think, knowing how poetic he is, and I hear the title of a song called Chemistry, I'm like, oh, this is going to be about the chemistry between people. Like, no, it's about chemistry class. It's about
chemistry class. It's a very Descendants class in that regard, where it's just about chemistry class, and even talk about math. Because I love me some Descendants when they talk about math. But I do like that he gets kind of nostalgic about the girl 2 years his junior.
Yeah.
Actually, would make him actually more of a I'm going to assume that he's a sophomore because he says he's out, right? It's 7 more months. Yeah, and then so what? My mouth is open, my book is shut. Like he doesn't even care. But like, yes, we get into him reminiscing about a 15, 16-year-old girl getting picked up by some older dude on a motorbike.
Yep.
Why do we have to keep going to Creepville? Like, I feel like, well, who is picking this girl up? Are we gonna hope it's like
some creep, and he's aware of that. It's like he's like, that shouldn't be going on. Some older guy on the motorbike. Yeah, it's like, well, 2 grades below, she pierced her nose way before it's cool. That's very important.
Remember those movies from like the high school girls were dating the college guys, you know, which is, I think it's still creepy, but like it's
that never stopped being creepy. That's always been creepy because that's literally an 18-year-old person, you know, someone over 18, you're dating a child, just by the way, you know. Just gonna throw that out there. Just throw it out there. But yeah, this school is a living hell. I work, I don't get paid. I smoke a lot, but I don't get laid. It's just such a high schooly song.
Well, yeah, like I work and don't get. I mean, yeah, isn't that how you feel in high school? Like, why have to do this? I'm not. No one's, you know, like for a degree. I'm like, no, I want like money. I also like the specificity of his own experience. Like, drink beneath the 405 and the Ivy. Like, oh, so they're like the underpass. Like, you know,
yeah,
it's very specific. Okay, that's what you were doing, and you're thinking about this girl. I will say, I'm going to defend Blake with the chemistry here. I mean, chemistry is about combining of elements to make new compounds, right? And isn't that what it's happening in high school. You're combining these experiences as you grow into an adult. That's the chemistry. I don't know. Just going out there.
I love it. I love every second of that. I love how you brought that together. I love it. Yeah, yeah. Titles matter, and there's a reason. Hmm
What you
I'm
got?
glad. I'm glad you got there before I did, because I'm Professor Douchebag.
Um, should we play this one?
I'll play this one absolutely.
All right. Here is Chemistry by Jawbreaker. Track 6 is next, and it's called Oyster.
Well, because last song you talked about, knowing Blake, chemistry had to be a bigger. It couldn't just be about chemistry class. It was like a little bigger than that. I'm like, oh, a song about oyster. It better be about like finding that pearl on the inside. And that's
I
all I'm gonna
mean,
say. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Actually, no. What I really want to say about that, Jose, you mentioned earlier that The Cure and the
Mhm.
Pixies are two of your big four bands. I feel this song is the biggest amalgam of a Cure and a Pixie song. If you mushed
Interesting.
it together, you would have it. I'm even going to go so far, I can even tell you what Cure song I think it is. I think this song, if you listen to it and the opening of it, sounds like Boys Don't Cry. And the
Mhm.
chorus goes right into that, and you'll hear it. But where I always, when I listen to it, I always expected the bum 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 ba, and
Uh-huh.
I never get that part because that's obviously a different song. But I feel the chorus of this song is a Cure song, and then um the section, what section? What would you call that? Verse. There it is. See, tell you getting old, guys. The verse is a very Pixies-esque song.
Interesting. All right.
I definitely hear the chorus now you say that, like the world is an oyster.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
boys. Don't. Sorry, I'm singing for everybody out there. I'm sorry about that because I'm not good at singing. But yeah, I do. The world is an oyster locked in a shell. Like it's it's the pearl. I think that's what it is. I think it's like taking on and realizing there's your world is your oyster. It could be, you go after it and do what you want with it.
Well, I'll take it one step further, I
I
think.
love I love when you do. One step
Uh,
beyond, one step beyond. We'll bring in some madness to one step beyond.
well, there's a pearl in there, but and he likes the taste of it, but he doesn't like the smell. And like to
Mm.
me, that's like this idea of like you have to take the good with the bad. That's what it's all about. Like, and that's about relationships. That's about your career. Like anything in your life, it's not going to all be a pearl. It's not all going to taste good.
Hmm.
And it's the struggle here of like it's locked in a shell. Are you even going to bother opening it because of the negative stuff in there? There's good stuff in there too, but there's also a negative thing that's going to hold you back. And it makes me think, and this, please go with me on this English major journey. It makes me think of T.S. Eliot's love song of J. Alfred Prufrock in the
Wow.
"Do I dare disturb the universe?" Do I
I
even dare to open this? Because I know there's a pearl in there, but I don't like some other stuff in there.
you don't know what's gonna. It's like opening Pandora's box. You don't know what's gonna come with it.
Yeah. Oh, I like that one even better
No,
than my
yours is much
Prufrock.
yours is much more on the nose. I love it. Um, I am gonna point out the very creepy line
Please do.
but in this song, and it's just I haven't got a nice thing to say about anyone except the one who caught me staring, so I just walked away. Like, can we keep the creepville out of the lyrics? I'm getting it's a bit much. We're lurking. We're very lurksome. Again, I don't know if that's a word, but I'm gonna look it up and see if it is.
I mean, is it lurksome, or are we hitting on the fact that he's an observer? Isn't he studying everything around him too, and it seems to be overthinking things, especially relationships and the endings of relationships, and I mean, it's very introspective, right? So
Yeah, I feel like the character in this a lot of times sounds like the kid from Goddamn American Beauty, who was like videotaping the plastic bags, spinning around, and just
Mhm.
it's just the most beautiful thing ever. Like, I don't know, man. But if you see beauty in it, that's cool. And he was also kind of creepy. Just saying.
that's true. That's true.
I don't even know where to go with this because I painted myself into a creep corner.
Well, Phil, sometimes when you're in the creep corner, you have to think of the million ways out.
Thanks for getting that segue in there. Yes, you do. Yeah, I think of a million. It's funny. I love how the word million gets played with a bunch in this song in a couple of different ways. Like it gets referenced in a couple of at 3 times. I think it gets referenced. Now I'm gonna go find out.
Million times.
A million
Um,
times. Yeah.
yeah. Hose, what do you think of this song?
Which
Are
one are
we
you talking
still
about? Still million
Million,
or
million.
million? Are we still in the run of good songs?
Yeah, we are. I do like this one. There's a third one. um, this one's interesting. This gets I get maybe like this is gonna sound interesting. The opening I get like maybe even Soundgarden vibes to it.
Oh,
You know,
interesting.
um, Soundgarden as a band was like very there was like I don't think there was melodic. I don't think as like Pearl Jam and Nirvana and stuff like that, right? I think they were playing with different chords and tones or something, but I liked them quite a bit. But
Soundgarden, one-time SST band.
you're right. Yep, absolutely.
Mhm.
But at the beginning of the song reminds me of that, and this one I do like. It's musically when I speak to that, but yeah.
That's interesting. 'Cause my first thought of this song was this is emo as fuck.
Yeah.
This is one of those songs where I'm like, oh yeah. And I think there's heavy metaphor here that I've been trying to like this idea of like take me to the pretty ones. I want to be a pretty one. Sign me to a nice girl so she can ruin me eternally. Which is like that's the on the nose emo if it's actually about finding like a girl who's going to ruin me internally. Like there's something like kind of ironically cute about that. Like this person's going to change me forever. But I also wonder if as a major label album and it's a song about million, is that what they're talking about a little bit more about like
Yeah.
who am I going to sign with?
Well,
And
I think that's why I think million is interesting. It comes up three, four different times. Obviously the first one it's named. The first time it comes up is you could turn a phrase. You could turn a phrase until it reads a million ways. So the act of writing, right? Just trying to
yeah,
figure out how to write lyrics. And then later on, it comes out where it says they offered me $1 million, and all I wanted was a steady fuck. And so, I feel like that's a contract that they're offering
right.
you. Here's $1 million contract, and he's like, all I wanted to do was just rock the rock and roll lifestyle, right? Just go play shows and maybe get with a girl. And then million comes in again at the end. Well, in my perfect world, I'd be signed to a nice girl, the record company. It would only cost me 1 million kisses. And when he says it, do you hear how deflated he sounds at the end of the song? And
Yeah,
when he says kisses, it's like he is sad about it.
he is. Yeah.
Like it's dismissive almost. I think it's a song about the record company. And like this is a song about him selling out.
Well, it could be, yeah, and I think that's 100% true. And I think also the end, I always thought that that was like almost kind of like I'd give all this up to
Yeah.
be with a nice girl and have a million kisses. Like, what am I doing? Like, why are we doing this? Like, this is what I really want is something so simple, you know?
Right. Because
Whether it's being in a punk band or being with the right girl or whatever it is, like that, it's like you kind of have to give all that up. And like going back to your first million, you can turn a phrasal reads a million ways. It makes no sense, but it's as good as it is sad. Like doesn't he, like he's realizing everything he's writing is sad, and
right.
he's not happy. That's what I take from it.
And it's
He,
interesting, Boxcar, that song, 24 Hour was supposed to be like a fuck you to like his actual punk fans, right?
Yeah,
right.
Like
Right.
that's been selling out. Right now he's doing this and he's still not happy, right? Or just fucking I'm gonna do what we want. Now he's not happy. There's also this theme starting to see it now. I am unskilled, adored. Like I feel like he doesn't think he's any good in half the stuff, right?
yeah.
There's in the previous song, but
Right.
not on the right. And I can't remember if that was actually a thing we heard about back then, but that's really interesting.
I think this is I think Take It Back Sunday studied the lyrics to this song and learned how to like write a tune because the way this song reads it seems like a Take It Back Sunday lyric. Like I am sad, elated, I am segregated. It's just
Yeah,
that rhyme scheme that he does in this song just feels very Take It Back Sunday down the road.
yeah. I could feel the millions of influences on many
Oh
emo
my God.
bands.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
so many bands. Um Yeah, I'm thrilled and bored. I'm unskilled, adored, all of both and none of one. I mean, it's really self-reflexive, but also like I don't know, self-hating kind of like.
Mm.
Do we even deserve any of this?
Yeah.
Because like um, he says, he even says like I want to be original. Like he does. He wants to be something different, but it's just oh, sign me to a nice girl.
Well,
Costs you 1 million kisses.
yeah, that ending is it's heartbreaking. Yeah, there is definitely, again, he's being very vulnerable, exposing whether these songs are true or not. We don't know, but there's an authentic voice behind this, and sounds like there's a struggle going on again.
And I will say this: this is my favorite line of all the entire album is on this. Is that I haven't killed before, but I could set this heart on stun. Like it's just
That's
it,
yeah,
it's like he's even acknowledging like the kind of frontman sex symbol thing. Like frontmen usually get placed into, right? But it's just like I said, I'm not on kill. I'm gonna put this on stun. I mean, it's just such a great line. Love it.
yeah. I love that line. In fact, I love it so much I want everyone to hear it. So here is "Million" by Jawbreaker. We've talked about lurking a lot today, so it only
Sure
makes
have.
sense that Lurker 2, Dark Son of Night arrives.
What the fuck is this title? I feel like we're like this is like the most 1980s slasher movie title ever. I mean, what the fuck is this title? Uh, whatever. This song cracks me up. Cracks me
Well,
up.
I mean, Lurker 2, Dark Son of the Night makes sense because like this song is really about isolation to me.
Yes.
Because there's it feels like this is like a 20 somethings person who's like living on their own for the first time, doesn't have much, and
hmm
it's kind of like this is what you wanted, but now that you have it, it's like, oh wait, this is not great.
No, this is not great. I just love that like basically the Friday night is hook up the Sega, have sex
Mhm.
alone, and just I think it's you kind of think the beginning of the first verse is what you thought early adulthood on your own would be like. It's a very
Yeah,
romantic version of what you thought it would be like, and then the further you get into the song, the more realistic. Like, no, but this is what adult life is really like. You kind of on your own, and it's sad. Now I'm
yeah.
depressed.
Well, yeah, because it's like maybe like yeah, connect the cable. All right, we got cable. That's cool. Have sex a lot. That sounds good. A hostile climate clouds and sickens you. Well, that's not great.
That's not great.
But yeah, 2 room condo. I mean, most people don't get a 2 room condo to start off with in a trueless
No,
cul-de-sac.
Yeah, but it
nice.
sounds awful. Like back then, the
Yeah,
two condo and Truist cul-de-sac. That sounds like suburban, boring life,
yeah,
which is we all. I mean, that's what I didn't ever want back then. So it's like almost a failure. Yeah.
yeah. And then you get into it, and it's like this loose leaf paper at a loss for words. Like now he can't write, even though you have the paper. Can of
And it,
dinner. Yeah,
I feel a can of dinner is the saddest thing he's ever written. I mean, just the image of a single can, and that's what you're having for dinner tonight. It's just kind of sad.
they
Although
got
he's gonna hook up a Sega.
the Sega. I'm happy. I'm trying to understand 1995. What was the Sega system in 1995? Was that a
Nope.
Sega Saturn at that point, or
That might have been the switch over between a Genesis, the Sega Saturn, and the Sega CD. That might have been
that was
that
in that
general.
area?
Yeah,
Because
that was in
yeah,
that general area. Yeah.
Dreamcast was a few years off still. So,
Yeah.
or maybe it was just his Genesis from a kid. Like that's probably what he had. He's just gonna play Sonic the Hedgehog. It's fine. Stick a fork in a socket. Still, it's no surprise. Like,
Oh, good God.
yeah,
It's just, and he gets, I think I'm coming unplugged. I just scratch and shrug. Like he doesn't even care anymore. This is where we're at. This is life now. This is what life is. Ugh.
yeah. I also like, the chorus. I can't watch you all the time, much as I'd like to, as I think I ought to. It's hard to argue for this life. Like, I you can take the lurker as the creepy, but it might just be like I can't even like see people anymore because I'm
hmm
stuck in this what I thought is the life I wanted, and really it's not that great.
I wonder if this is very more of a reflection of signing to a big label, you know,
Oh yeah,
and
being
it
ostracized by your peers, kind
right
of thing.
like it not lyrically, I guess, kind of thematically, it's giving me vibes of Green Day's '86,
Hmm.
which is them going back to Oakland and just basically being they're like, no, you're 86, you're out. You're not a part of the scene anymore. And I wonder if this is, Blake kind of going through the emotion of it all and just realizing like, maybe this isn't what I wanted, which it comes is a great connection sequencing following Oyster.
Yeah, that's a good point. And
You
this
know,
this is the good three
or
for you, Hose, right?
yeah, no, Oyster and Million, and then Lurker. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, chemistry through this. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big chunk.
well, they're all
And
the
my
kind of
favorite song
punky.
hasn't come up yet. Or my favorite, what I think is the best song on this album hasn't come up yet.
Oh, I'm excited to find out that out.
It is a punk little run, like
Right?
Yeah.
4 songs straight that you just kind of have this kind of punky tune the entire time.
Well, and going back to what you said earlier, Phil, about what would the next Jawbreaker album have looked like if this had gone according to plan? Maybe that is kind of like this is like the perfect transition album because yeah, it starts off like here's some new sounds where some of the old fans are like, "What's this?" But then we get into the middle of it, and you're like, "Oh, okay, now I know this. This is Jawbreaker. This is
Right.
I'm being familiar," which is like kind of what you want to do when you're in a album where you're kind of evolving, right? You want to like look to the past a little bit, but you want to push things forward, and you want to do a little bit of everything. Make it a very full album.
Right. You want to kind of still move forward a little bit. I appreciate that. Yeah.
So why not go back to Annie Hall and find uh, a clip, a sample of dialogue from a movie that's a comedy, and what I thought was one of the funniest scenes in that movie. Christopher Walken's character. You don't even have to watch the whole movie. I'll recommend it because that filmmaker doesn't need to be watched. It's fine. But
That's true.
Christopher Walken's role in that movie is this line that they sample here, which I thought was funny. And I feel like this song, Jet Black, track 9, Jet Black, has a Jet Black mood. It is a vibe. It is depressing. And it's almost like they take that line and make it serious in the song.
They really spin that whole bit.
Yeah.
It flip it on its head and turn it around from something kind of funny to to more like, oh, should I have worried about his character a bit more than I did watching Annie Hall? Because I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. Yeah, I don't think about car crash like driving into. Why would a normal person think like that? I don't. That's
Well,
not where I'm at.
Phil, you just said sparked something to me. Like when you watch the movie Annie Hall, you're laughing because you're watching it through the point of view of this character who thinks this is like ridiculous and it's kind of funny how absurd it is.
Right.
But yeah, no one's actually like worried about the Christopher Walken character and what they're actually going through. Like it's made as a joke.
Right. It's played for a joke.
But Christopher Walken, it's not joking, right? Like this is
No.
he's seriously thinking about drifting the car into the other lane, having a head-on collision, the flames going up your face from the gasoline.
It's one of those like characters where you're like, whoa, that's like drunk Uncle Bob at Thanksgiving, and you're just like, I don't know, Uncle Bob, I don't think like that. That's just strange. I don't get where you're going. And then you kind of just shrug it off and move on. Like, feel like maybe the whole reason why Blake's put it like maybe we should actually pay more attention to that character. And like that guy's not okay. Maybe he needs a hug and a warm blanket. I don't know.
Well, I like that, but I mean, because the other part of me is like, well, or is this tongue in cheek, this song? Because it is so, you know, it kind of like looking at goths and people who are like over the top with their like sadness, and that's why they're using this kind of like if you don't know that movie and you just hear that, you could be like, oh, that's so deep and like, you know, but it's coming from a comedy, so is it tongue in cheek? This song? Are they mocking a sad goth emo person?
Because they kind of are, because the lyric is funny like a funeral, right?
Yeah.
In the chorus, that it's funny like a funeral, but he's also saying I'm jet black, I'm stone cold, I'm jet black to the center. Like I am jet black. I mean, it's hitting you over. You get hit over the head with it. You're jet black. I mean, that's so. I don't. Maybe I don't know, because he does say, where's the one part? Ultimately, I think he's talking about a relationship. because he even says, the patiently nurse, patient and nurse. Great line, by the way. But simple and pure break to keep fixing, patiently nurse, patient and nurse. So he's like, it's almost like he knows it's a tough relationship. He wants to fix it, but I don't know if he has the capacity to do it because he is himself stone cold. I mean, stone cold. I mean, there's nothing inside. It's kind of dead inside. Maybe he sees. Obviously, he must see some kind of connection between him as this character he's putting into the story, or himself, to that in Christopher Walken and Annie Hall.
I also feel like, again, this could be an Alkaline Trio song.
Oh yeah.
This chorus, especially, I feel like very similar to kind of things they've done, like all the thematics they've done, right? Like, I'm thinking, all that. Jose, what do you think about this song? This is another slower one.
I could definitely feel that Alkaline Trio vibes in it. But this one's interesting, and the placements of lots of these songs are kind of interesting. And I'm, whether you buy into this is about a breakup and this character, it's making so much sense. Like this feels like a morning thing to me, right?
Yeah.
Like, which fits organically after the last album when there's more kind of like the dealing with the loss of like Jeff, I could see this album on Good Morning by Alkaline.
This song,
yeah, this song on Good Morning. It just fits, and now I really wish they had covered it and actually put it on there. It just really fits.
At first, I thought maybe this is the most emo one on emo potential one on the album, but it might, and if you know my history with Alkaline Trio, it took me a minute to get into those guys.
Yeah.
I'm more apt to say this is a very Trio song. But yeah, it's interesting. It's again, it's a vulnerability. Like the story that we're kind of rolling through song to song. Like I'm seeing the arc. Now I'm kind of curious to see how it ends.
Yeah, I definitely always thought this one had the emo vibes to me for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
that second verse, white noise is a black room dust. These hands long for one last touch. I don't reach, so I won't miss. I taste our last kiss. Like it's just there's a longing for sure in this that's kind of fueling the despair.
I'll tell you what, though, that line, I taste your last kiss, that's the one lyric that always stood out that I can hear clearly when listening to the song last week. And I'm like, the first time I heard, I'm like, did he really just fucking sing that?
That's your cringe meter for you?
That's my cringe. That's the emoest line in this entire record.
Do you think Thursday got an idea for Jet Black New Year? Having off Jet Black?
I mean,
or is it just because it's the hair dye?
I think it was the hair dye for them, but like I'm sure. I mean, they're of the scene. They knew this album, so it wasn't like, there's no way that they couldn't think that there was a Jawbreaker song, Jet Black.
Yeah, I'm sure Jeff, not you, Jeff from Thursday would be like right off the lyrics to this in 2 seconds. How do you feel about Jeff from Thursday being a Geoff?
I mean, look, there's room in this world for all sorts of spellings of Jeff. I mean, but I feel like his is like legit. Like I think he's like named after Geoffrey Chaucer or something. Like I think his parents were like professors or something. So like,
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah,
pretty sick.
Pretty sick. White noise in a black room dust. That is like Alkaline Trio all over it. These hands long for one last touch. Such a good line.
I can anticipate the explosion, the sound of shattering glass, the flames rising out of the flowing gasoline.
I mean, it's played for a laugh, but I'm like, looking back, I'm like, that shouldn't be funny. And yet here we are. I'm just, well, it's also the greatness of Christopher Walken, just being able to deliver that line and to make it as funnily scary as he does. I don't know.
You know what? Let's play this one. Why not?
Let's have the fans take a listen to it as well. Yeah.
Here is Jet Black featuring Christopher Walken by Jawbreaker. All right. So Jet Black is a mood. It's depressing. It's downer. It might be tongue in cheek. We never really came to a conclusion. That's fine. The important thing is we on the album we need a little bit of a chaser. I feel like maybe
let's pep it up. Yeah.
a pop punk bop is really what we need right about now. The next track is called Bad Scene, Everyone's Fault.
Everybody's at fault. Every one of them. This is. I think this is a song about you're damned if you do or you don't. Like you can't win no matter what you do. That's what the vibe I get out of this.
I am so thinking about this album. I always enjoyed this song because it is the most. It's a story. It's the most of a story than any other. Like this is a narrative, right? There's a time and a place. There's details that really put you there, and we can get into some of the specifics that I love. But like, so much of this song feels abstract, and then all of a sudden, this song is just like, here you go. Here's the story, and then here's a fast beat, and it's pop punky, and it's fun, and it's like it's a party, and it's
a party. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love how embarrassed he is about knowing Zeppelin.
It's great.
Well, that resonates like a motherfucker. You would not admit that.
Yeah, right.
Like you would never admit it, but be like, no, he knows, and it's like he knows all of it. Like I bet you anything, he knows every bit of every one of those Zeppelin songs, but he's embarrassed by it. I mean, that's hilarious because you're right. You would never ever admit that to anybody if you were in that scene. You're like, no, they're crap. But yet you'd be like,
Well, he says that, right? He says, someone was blasting Zeppelin. It sounded good. I felt ashamed. I knew every drum fill.
Yeah. And to know the drum fill,
right?
Like you have paid attention to those songs because that's the little bits in between. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, the fact he's embarrassed by it, I love it.
But it's a really great specific detail, which is again why I'm like, what does a Jawbreaker album look like after this? Are there more like very specific like these little like stories that are like lived in with these characters and stuff? I mean, like Phil, can you tell us the story of this song?
Yeah, he goes and meets up with his buddy, and they're gonna grab a couple of beers, and then his buddy sees like the ex-girlfriend, and then he had to deal with all that. And then you go in, and I always feel like he sees his ex-girlfriend or just a girl he liked, because he's about wearing the shirt, and then they have a little bit of confrontation, and then the cops show up, party's over.
Yeah, I thought it was the guy I knew, hadn't seen in years. We had a couple beers, stole a couple beers. He said his girl had dumped him, but she was there with another guy. He said he still liked her. And then later, he's doing the whole Zeppelin thing, and then he sees that girl totally kissing the guy. And this is the part I think is so great. He's like, they totally, anyway, there she sat, totally kissing this guy. They look good. I mean, like in love. Then I remember my friend.
Right.
Like he had that moment where he's like, oh, good for them. And then like, my friend is
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the pesky police come in. And I love that that's how it ends.
Well,
that's the funniest thing.
No, but that to me is like how you remember a party. It's like,
right,
because clearly there's a confrontation now between the friend and his ex, and it's like a big dramatic scene, and it's like, oh god, but like it doesn't matter because the cops show up and the party's over. Yeah. You know, that feels so authentic to me.
This is such a momentary song. Not to get misfit lyrics in here, but it's a very momentary song.
I also
this is my favorite of the album.
Yeah.
It should be obvious why by now.
Well, yeah, you're with a party. What sick things I saw: makeout sessions, bicycle messengers, punks, and art school dropouts. You have a very clear view of who's at this party. You know, and then I also love in the chorus the journey that the chorus goes on, because at first it says he's like, when the good friend is saying, she's here with another guy, I still like her. And all I could say was, why, oh, why is it always like this? It's just like, yeah, it never works out, bro. You know, it's always like this, you know, all these near misses, right? Going back to that. But then later, when the friend is like being like, how could you do this to me, to the girl? And you said you need your space. And he's wearing the shirt I gave, like the fight is happening. And then the girl seems like now she gets to say, why, oh, why are you always like this? Same old story. You know, it's like everyone's just like, nothing changes. It's always the same, no matter who's telling the story, who's experiencing it.
Could he be poking fun at this entire situation with this one song, with his own situation, or trying to,
Yeah.
That's what I'm curious about, because it's so much lighter. It's so much
Yeah.
like a punk thing. Like three or
Well,
four chords.
well, yeah, because he's being so over. Not he's being over. He's being very dramatic in his introspection and all the other
Yeah.
songs. And now here he's just kind of like, ugh, why is it like this?
Yeah.
With very simple, kind of like throw your arms in the air. It's like, it's everybody's fault. It's a bad scene.
Everybody's fault. Bad scene.
But I mean, that title also makes me think, like, is that him just his whole commentary on the whole punk scene? You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
which they're going to feel the brunt of when the punk scene turns their back on them because they signed a major label, whatever it is. But just in general, like you're kind of they've been in this scene for so long and they've like witnessed it all. It's like, it's young people just being ridiculous and young and not dramatic and everything. Punk scene or any scene is people are people, right? And then the cop showed up.
And
the cops show up.
Yeah, dude.
Typical Friday night. Yeah, cops showing up.
All right, we gotta play this one.
Yep.
All right, here is Bad Scene, Everyone's Fault by Jawbreaker. Track 11 is a word invented for this song. It's called sluttering, parentheses, May 4th.
Right. It's a Star Wars song, right?
Could be. This was before May 4th became Star Wars Day, right?
Yes, this was way before that. Yes. Yeah.
There's a quote from Blake that I found here about this word sluttering. He said it's a true story, ugly and forever. The word sluttering means a kind of drunk muttering. I actually defined it once as a pontification under duress. There was an angry love triangle, then an elaborate revenge plot designed to incur maximum humiliation. It succeeded horribly, and I wound up in the hospital in Concord.
Cheapers. I wonder what happened there.
Yeah. But yeah, a drunk muttering is sluttering. I don't know, that helps understand this song, because I feel like this song is pretty abstract.
Yes. He's talking to ex-girlfriends, ex people. It seems to be more than one. Well, this is two, because he says, congratulations to you both. I hope somewhere you're happy. So obviously they're not with him anymore. If there's a moral to the story, then I wish you'd show me. Oh, that's so sad. He didn't learn anything. I think he did, though.
Music is a really like kind of like a flippant attitude, and when you listen to it, it's not quite upbeat, but it's way more upbeat than all the stuff before. So it's interesting to hear. It's almost like he's trying to put up walls or something,
There's a scathing intensity to this song. The way he sings, the way the music sounds, it's a little angrier than some of the other ones, just in its tone.
But I think he's more angry at himself on this one.
Yeah.
Than angry about like the scene in general, which is funny because I feel like the last song is angry at the scene. This one's kind of angry at himself and what he's done in the past. It's one of those abstract ones where you're kind of like, it could mean a couple of different things, except toward the end. I think it gets a little more nuanced. But what were you going to say, Jeff? I cut you.
No, I mean, I think there's a pain here. I mean, there's a regret, definitely regret and stuff. You need a little less than what you take for granted. This is the sip, the drinks back, that's drinking back from you, blacking out your eyes. And then, where's this line? Oh, you are your worst revenge. Your very means they have no ends. This is a story you won't tell the kids will never have. Like that feels painful. Like.
So painful that it realizing it was his fault. I feel like that's what comes across. That it's his fault that the relationship soured the way it did. It was on him, and that he won't forget it.
Yeah,
because he'll live with it. Yeah.
Well, and it's like maybe the abstractness is part of it because he can't quite get the message out. He can't quite explain like whether he messed up or whatever went wrong, and like something feels like it shouldn't have happened. Like the drunken muttering is like, to me, is like, you can't do anything about it. It's already in the past. So even that outro, which is like so intense, if you hear this song 100 times, it still won't be enough. Like the way he like hits that so hard, it's like he knows that like whatever he's feeling, it doesn't matter
Right.
because it's in the past, it's gone.
Now I'm wondering though if he's very sincere, because if it's like basically drunk sincerity,
Yeah,
like it sounds like the mutterings of a drunk person who's like kind of like at his at his most honest. I'm really sorry. It's my fault. We broke up. I'm just really shit faced right now, and that's what's muttering out of me right now. Yeah, sluttering, muttering, like slurred,
yeah,
muttering.
yeah.
Yeah, all right, yeah, all right. I can see how that gets put together.
Which I guess, like in that headspace too, if you're drunk, it's hard to kind of get your thoughts correctly. You may be being very honest, but you can't
Put it together.
communicate.
Yeah, you can't put it together enough to
Yeah,
actually say what it is that you'd like to say, but you can do the vibe, emotional feel around it.
I do think this is a sick sounding song though. I think this one rocks pretty hard,
I agree.
which I enjoy. Because that's good because we're gonna slow a little bit in the beginning of this plotting, moody penultimate track 12.
Penultimate. We're gonna go to the Basilica.
Basilica. What is a basilica, Phil?
That is a large public building with multiple functions that was typically built alongside the town's forum.
And like, yeah, when is this? When the Roman Empire kind of
This is
era?
the ancient Roman Empire. That's how far
Yeah,
back this
yeah.
goes. Yeah.
Phil, are you one of those people on TikTok who are always thinking about the Roman Empire?
Uh, and, uh, my version of it, but no, not the actual Roman Empire. No. What about you? Do you go around thinking about the Roman Empire? Actually,
No.
I take that back. I probably do think about them. My wife even asked me that question, and I honestly, at least once a week, because something about the Roman Empire will always amaze me.
Jose, do you think about the Roman Empire often?
All the time. Think about it right now.
Yeah. What are you thinking about it?
You know, how
Basilicas?
they built plumbing.
Yeah.
It's always plumbing. That's always what I go back to. It's aqueducts and like how do they know to use plumbing? Like how do they figure that out?
Oh, it's crazy.
It's funny. Always plumbing. That's always what it goes back to. They're gonna go back like just the fact that they even had working bathrooms. Like the ancient Romans had working bathrooms, and the goddamn American West had outhouses.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just,
Yeah.
just
Yeah. No,
saying.
that's a great point. Yeah.
Just saying. I just.
Hey, Rome wasn't built in a day. I don't know if that makes any sense here. Um,
Son,
you know who's got great toilets?
where's this going? All right, who's got a great toilet?
The greatest toilets experience I ever had in my life is when I went to Japan. I mean, I was literally like, this is absurd that this isn't in the US. This is why. What are we doing? What are we doing?
How different is the toilet system over there than compared to here?
The heated seats,
Oh,
your bidet situation. I mean, everything about it, Phil. It's just they're doing it so much better in Japan than we are doing here. Anyway, so the Romans, the Japanese, they know the toilets.
all right, well, there you
This
go.
song makes me
Son-
think of some Midwest emo at times because of the way it kind of like is structured.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it starts off kind of slow and plotting, and it's kind of got a very beautiful chorus. It's raining in your room, angel tears bath sweet, angel eyes on you, they love all that they see. I think it's really beautiful. And then as the song goes on, by the time you get to the last 2 minutes, 20 seconds or so, it's like very instrumental and it becomes more of a vibe. And then it just starts to rock heavier in that last minute.
Yeah, it
So,
picks up. It's very
yeah,
emo, very Midwest emo.
yeah,
Well, the tone changes. Like
yeah.
now, like oh, is someone dead? Have we got this? Is that what just happened? Because we're at Dewey Palm. Only in Los Angeles can we have a Dewey Palm with a cemetery lawn. I'm just saying. Or then walk alone in gardens of loss. You can't have a flower of stone. Never let the soil come between us. I'm asking you on a date for the rest of your life. Like where? Like plot twist. What happened here?
Well, that's what I think. First of all, that line, never let the soil come between us, is that's a
Chef's kiss.
yeah. You did your work today, Jawbreaker, on that line. Yeah, it definitely kind of feels like there's a loss here. I mean, Angel Tears in the court. Again, going back to that, it's just like it does. I don't 100% know what this song's about. Never really have. Still, even listening to it again, I'm still not sure. But it's the vibe is strong in this one.
Yeah, I feel like someone slash thing has died. It's a mourning. It's a song about mourning. I
Yeah,
mean, ultimately, because it feels like he's in a church. He literally says, "This is my prayer for you," but he goes in the pew. So I always imagine it's probably in a church. That's why I feel like we're at a funeral, but it doesn't necessarily need to be for a person. It could be for a relationship, a thing. I mean, there's gonna be a bunch of things. It could be a funeral for a relationship that's gone bad. We know the last album was about was the big breakup thing, and here's what kind of dealing with that. It could be a self-awareness that he's having the funeral for like the change of band they are. They're going someplace different. I don't know. So that old scene's dying off. He even said like 2 songs ago, he talks about my friends are dead in the bad or no, that was a bad scene. That was in Oyster. He talked about that. His friends are all dead or something like that. But
well, looking back at the verses too, there is this like it opens up like sunken eyed best friend of mine. Why do you sit so still shaking? Superheroes sapped of all powers. I kneel beside you, watch for hours. Like, is that the friend who? Is it a friend who's dying?
hmm,
Because then it's
um,
like I think you have thoughts of dying. Like it sounds like it might be like a friend who is sick or something, or like not doing well. So then when we come back after the chorus into that verse 3 you mentioned earlier about the cemetery lawn, maybe the person did die.
right. I'm looking in my notes here, and Basilica. I kept wondering where's the connection between something from ancient Rome to where we are, and it is a term currently used by the Catholic Church as a term to refer to especially historic churches, but it was applied to Christian churches. So we are talking about a church, or one would assume that we're talking about a church. So yeah, some funeral for a friend, some saves a day.
Oh yeah.
That's
Well, it's got a mood. It's downer. You don't want to end your album like this though,
no,
but you
no.
don't
We
want to
want to.
name your last song either.
Nah, that's only posers and sellouts name their last tracks. So we're gonna call it the unlisted track.
Right. Unlisted track. Now another chaser. We had our chaser earlier. This is a chaser to the last song. Unlisted track. Going back to like influences, how many bands, especially the emo punk scene after this, would throw that acoustic song? Well, this one's not really acoustic, but like it starts off kind of acousticy. But throw a song like this at the end, just kind of like
Just tack it on. Yeah,
exhale at the end of the album. Um,
Alkaline Trio did it on God damn it, both sides.
that's right.
And even Save the Day busted out an acoustic song somewhere in the middle of Can't Slow Down. I forget where,
Yeah.
but yeah, they busted out an acoustic song. My favorite line is the "Wake me when you're through being cool," because I'm snoring and hoping. I love that line. I love it.
Well, this actually brings me back to chemistry because I feel like this is. It feels like they're waiting for this person to be as authentic as they are, so they could be like the authentic people together. They can be like weirdos together, right? Like it's like this is kind of like again a little more like hopeful in a sense that like we're gonna get there and then we're gonna be fine together.
I think ultimately we're gonna be okay in the end. I
Yeah,
feel like that's kind of where which is kind of a nice way to end an album
yeah,
with like this little. I, maybe it's deliberate because it is a sort of hopeful song at the end, a sort of hopeful song in the beginning,
yeah,
right? So maybe there's hope for the rest of us. We can save the generation by having some positivity in the 2 songs. Bookend with
To be
positivity.
embracing who he figured out who he was. Everyone's crazy. It's cool to be crazy, whatever. I think it's there's a line, something like that.
yeah,
Crazy people aren't so fucking boring. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? You're kind of right. I mean, there's a level of craze I'm not gonna deal with, but I'm just, at least they're entertaining.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like that he's kind of like getting to this like place. He's learned something on this journey.
Mhm.
And I
And
think that is really apparent with the final lines of this album. Because
mhm.
the outro of this song is so color me obvious. I just want to be happy half the time and blue only when I have the time. Because he spent a lot of this album just really basking in being blue, right? And he's not even asking to be happy all the time. He's being realistic.
No, he's like, I'll be happy half the time. Half the
Yeah.
time. That I'll settle for that. And then blue only when I have the time. I mean, that's such a great last line. I will say it's probably one of my favorite last lines of any album ever because it just sums up everything really, really well.
So Jose, you like the middle songs. How did you feel about these last two songs on the album?
Silica's interesting. So this last one I kind of I like because it is, you know, it's an interesting one. And it's a little hopeful. You said Basilica, there's like, you know, one thing that gets me. It's when he hits that minor note, like superhero sapped of all powers.
Yeah.
And but later on he keeps it, but there's more going on, you know, with the band in the background, right? But it just rings in my ears. But that song actually reminds me of like a Smashing Pumpkins song, like off
Oh
Dick,
yeah.
or like on the B sides, you know, with the structure and the different sorts of like tones, which I really like. So as the song gets going, and you know, more like the band comes in, like I enjoy it more, right? Um, but yeah, it's a nice wind down from the other stuff, you know, from the punky stuff that I like.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna take a minute, not slow jam it. We're gonna just take a breath here. Let's just calm it down for a second.
Well, Phil, we've
Yeah,
gone through Jawbreaker's Dear You.
we did. We've gone through it. Gone through all of its in its intensity, its ups, its downs. It's had moments of greatness, and it's had moments of not greatness. So let's get into that. Jeff, I'm going to ask you and Hose a couple of questions. I would like your honest answer. Jeff, what do you think is the best song on the album?
The best song for Jeff
For Jeff now. Yes, for you.
is Accident Prone. I love that song. I think it's gorgeous. I think it's moving. It's I hear something new in it every time I hear it. And not just a Julian Baker cover, which I love as well, but actually this one.
Mm-hmm. Hose, what about you? What do you think is the best song on the album?
Oh, bad seeing everyone's fault.
Bad scene. Yep. Yep.
And
You're right. That's the best song on the album. Bad Scene is the best song on the album.
Yeah.
It's got a great title. It just hits all the right places. Best song on the album. All right, Jeff, let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum. What is the song you are going to skip every time?
I think I'm gonna skip Lurker to Dark Sun of Night. Not that I don't like the song. Again, oftentimes when we skip songs, I never want to be like I hate this song.
Right.
But you know, I really like Million, and Jeff Black is fascinating to me. So I kind of it's again one of those songs where I'm like I kind of forget about it.
It's a sequencing thing, and you kind of
Yeah.
like you skip over to get to the next one. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I get you. Host, what about you? What is the sleeper song? No, sorry, the skip song for you. The song you're going to skip over.
I think I'm skipping over Jet Black.
Jet Black, yeah.
Where it's located in the record, and like, yeah, it's a little. Once you get me in the lurker too, I want to just keep moving.
I'm trying to think where that would even land on the album itself. Jeff, do you have this one on vinyl?
Well, I sure do, Phil. It's right here.
All right, there you go. Where does Jeff? What opens side two?
Open up side 2
Is it Lurker?
is wait, what? Oh, this is one of those weird ones that has multiple records.
Oh, all right. So go look at 3.
The third disc.
Third probably would be the one. That'd probably be side 2.
Oh wait, I see what you're saying. I'll go with the first one. So this one, yeah, this is all messed up because this only has 4 per side.
Okay.
So
So that's gonna throw me off. Okay, I'm curious now. What would be? Wonder if I can find it. Anyway, we'll get there. What am I on? Oh, we're on my particular skip. Okay, so here's where I go. I don't like 6-minute songs, and
Yep.
so I'm on the fence. I was like, which one do I feel like getting rid of? And it was a neck and neck race between Accident Prone and Basilica, and I ended up going with Basilica because Accident Prone I feel is much more straightforward and is much there's some merit to it. I skipped Basilica because I want to get to unlisted tracks. So the same kind of concept, but just I'm like, at this point, this album is almost like an hour long, and I'm like, I'm ready to move on and close it out. So I will say I'm going to skip Basilica.
Also, you didn't have the heart to skip my favorite song, which is I
No,
appreciate about that. Though.
no, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that to you. At least not yet. Um, Jeff, what do you think is the sleeper song on the album?
The sleeper song
This is always a fun question.
is the song that should have been the first single, I think, because and it starts the album off. It's called "Save Your Generation."
That's a great song.
I feel like that song would have exploded had it come out.
I think you're right. I think if that was a single, it would have the trajectory of this album would have been very different.
Yeah.
Host, what do you think? What is the sleeper song on the album?
I think it's Million. That surprises me every time I listen to it.
It's it's good.
I was Million was the other one I was debating between.
See, it's funny. My sleeper used to always be my skip because I just thought it was ridiculous. And I'm always like, every time I'm about to skip it, I'm like, no, I kind of like it. So it just for me, the sleeper song. Sorry, Jeff, it's gonna be Lurker 2, Dark Sun, because sorry, Dark Sun at Night, because it's just that silly song that I'm always like, no, I kind of like it. Like I always like I'm about to skip it, but then I don't, and I'm like, and to me that's telling that I actually find it's an entertaining song. So I think it's Lurker 2, Electric Boogaloo, Dark Sun of the Night. That is it's the song I'm gonna think everybody's sleeping on. That's just me. What do I know? So yeah, there is the album in its entirety. There are our questions. Jeff, can you tell me, please, how simple it is to do a podcast on Spotify?
Yeah, Spotify for podcasts. This is your chance to basically do a whole podcast on albums that Hose once didn't like, and have him re-listen to them and make a new opinion potentially about them. So yeah, so it's gonna be a whole podcast like Hose. It's called Hose Doesn't Like This, but now he does, and that'll be the podcast you could create on your own, and you can put songs from Spotify on it. Before we move on, Hose, has the needle moved at all for you? Re-listening to this album again, and
I'm gonna tell you, man, I was listening to it. I've listened to it like a bunch. I don't know, twice a day since you let me know.
That's dedication. I appreciate that.
It was killing me, but yeah, absolutely killing me. I gotta get through them. And it has moved. Like it's the songs I like on it now. The songs I can appreciate for what it is, particularly after talking through with you guys today, and really looking at the lyrics and stuff. Do I think it's a great album? Still, no, but I can definitely listen to it. It's fine. It's a good album, right?
all right.
We moved. Our job is done. We moved the needle a hair.
Yeah,
a hair.
This from extreme hate.
So like, yeah, it's okay. I will take that as a win.
Yeah,
You're gonna cleanse the palate now and just listen to 24-Hour Revenge that
oh my gosh,
therapy for a few weeks.
It was fun. It was fun revisiting all of them. They were comparing this record a lot to I think Bivouac.
Yeah.
It started kind of there, but Bivouac still had more of like that sort of older punk rock tone. So it was good to revisit those albums again. Doing this. And Justin Brazil, actually.
Yeah.
Let me do all the things we've got. So once again, folks who listen at home, if you're on Spotify, we also have a YouTube. which you could like and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, we also have a Spotify that you could just follow. Either way, you can still find us. We're also on the TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on Threads, although I don't do a lot with it. And you could tell by just looking at that feed. I don't do a lot with it. But again, we are on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Threads, as well as YouTube and Spotify.
And don't forget, you can get merch.
You can get merch, right? We are on TeePublic. Thank you. You know what, Jeff? I'm not used to saying that just yet, so I got to make sure I write that down in my notes. We do have a store that is on TeePublic. You can look up the Millennial Diner podcast. You can see all the wonderful designs that our executive producer, that's my wife, Megan, she has designed for us. Pick it up. There's a lot of great stuff there. Be on the lookout. We will occasionally have new logos and things coming up. And we'll put out announcements on the aforementioned social medias. And I take this opportunity once again, thank my wife for all of the free labor she gives us for the show. It's much appreciated.
Very appreciated. Host, thank you so much for coming to the diner. I hope you enjoyed your meal. I hope that you'll think about coming back, maybe when diving into another record, maybe a record you actually like a lot.
Ooh.
And
Yeah.
Oh, that could be fun. Yeah.
that could be fun
absolutely.
too.
It was fun, guys. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you can now say this bad scene is not Jawbreaker's fault.
This is true.
It's almost like we saved the generation.